Hi. So welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, different parts of the world. We are so happy to have you here. A little about me before we start off. I'm Nita Brahma and I'm part of this STEM initiative of InSquare, and Pradeep, who is here and is the co-founder of InSquare, will shortly tell you more about InSquare. Just a couple of lines about me. I have a multifunctional background, like many of us here. I have a basic educational background in engineering physics from IIT Delhi, and after which I worked in the corporate sector in banking and IT. Currently, I head HR for IIT, which is a learning solutions company. And so more about our initiative and the lovely panelists who are here. It will be wonderful to listen to them. And over to you, Pradeep, first, a little about InSquare.
Thank you very much, Meetha, and I'm delighted once again to be here to present the second session of Women in STEM as part of InSquare. So, what is InSquare? InSquare is a term that we collectively, Meetha, myself, and a couple of other people, we kick-started this initiative keeping three concepts in mind. Number one, the new normal. Number two, innovation. And number three, inclusion. Now, the new normal needs no introduction. We have all got used to living in a stop, start, stop world where suddenly there are lockdowns. Our dress code is now becoming with a pocket on our shirts for repeated vaccines, and so on and so forth. The innovation aspect is very interesting because all of us have been required to innovate, whether it be at individual level or at an institutional level, responding to changing external environments. And the third part of it, which is the inclusion, is absolutely to the fore, as what we find is, especially when it comes to women, their work life boundaries have just disappeared. So, collectively, this is broad the focus of InSquare, but there are a whole lot of sub initiatives which are kind of taking off along the lines of climate change, ESG, women, entrepreneurs, and a whole lot of different themes. Today, what we are going to be talking about, and we have some two very lovely ladies over here, and what we are going to be talking about is one of the trends. The trends, if I may look at some of the drivers, all of you must have read about the great resignation, where 4 million Americans are leaving their jobs every month. 50% of a recent survey want to change their career paths. And why do they want to do it? They want to do it because of work life balance as well as flexible and remote working. But there is another dimension to why people want to change their career. And this is about following your passion. And of course, the challenge sometimes is when you try to follow your passion is who pays the bills. So very often it comes down to balancing, managing personal. Can I ask Sunita or Medvi to put everybody on mute except for the speaker who can unmute themselves? So the challenge really coming back to is how do you balance meeting your financial needs with your passion. And here it is that we're going to bring and talk to you about two very lovely ladies who at the peak of their career have made this kind of a transition and also highlight the direction which they have gone and how relevant that new direction is in the new normal. With that, I'll hand it back to Meetha to introduce the two speakers of the day. So over to you, Meetha.
Yeah. Thank you, Pradeep. So a little statistics. Pradeep talked about, women in STEM and the challenges. So in India, for example, 43% of STEM graduates in India are women, which is the highest in the world. However, their share in
Somebody's mic needs to be muted. Sorry.
Kavita Kapoor.
Yeah. So just to repeat, 43% of STEM graduates in India are women, which is the highest percentage in the world. However, a mere 14% of women in the STEM workforce are women. So in terms of employment, India ranks 19th in the world, even though it topped the number of graduates. If you look at the international figures, internationally, women account for 29% of the STEM labor force. And in terms of faculty, they account for 34.5% of the workforce. So clearly there is a lot to do. And when you talk to young women, they talk and you ask them to look back on their journey. Some of the factors they talk about are the absence of role models while growing up, the lack of knowledge about career options, about the peer influence. And hence we thought that, from our perspective, we thought that let us have these events where we bring the community together. So we have sort of a 3C model to share with you. The first C for the community building or connect. The second C is celebrate, where we say celebrating the life stories. And the third C is what we say catalyze, or do some sort of advocacy. So this is one of those events. We had one event earlier and this is the second event. Now today on our panel, we have Sushma and Kamna, a little about them. Sushma Trivedi, she's a National Science Talent Scholar. She did her Master's in Physics from IIT Kanpur and she's a PhD from IIT Delhi. She specialized and worked in the area of graphics, video and image processing. She's worked in the industry with Apple, Sun Microsystems, and SGI. However, and we are going to delve deeper into this, currently she's a licensed marriage and family therapist. And similarly, when I talk about Kamna, both of them have, straddled these multiple worlds. And Kamna right now is a generative change coach and NLP master practitioner. And however, she has similar beginnings. She holds a PhD in physics from IIT Delhi. She has an international MBA from the University of Birmingham and Ecole Supérieure de Commerce, Montpellier. But she has also worked in Max Planck Institute of Biochemistry and was a fellow to the French Academy of Sciences. So how did these women do this transition? What led to it? So we will delve deeper into their journey. So I'll just ask you a couple of questions, Sushma and Kamna, and we look forward to your answers as you look back on your life. So the first question, and maybe Sushma, you could answer first, and then we'll move to Kamna, is if we start at the beginning and we say that how did you get started on your STEM journey? Growing up, who inspired you? Who were your role models? How did you decide what you wanted to do at that stage of life? So over to you, Sushma, for your childhood, school, and college days. Sushma, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very small town, small backward town in India, but my father was very progressive and he wanted his daughters to get good education and everything, and he encouraged us to read about science, to become scientists. And of course, I mean, as a young girl, I was totally impressed. I was in love with Marie Curie. It just seemed like her life was so romantic. She married her co-worker, got 2 Nobel Prizes, made a difference in the world. And then, of course, when you are encouraged by your parents, then there is a strong reason to continue to do that. So I studied physics, I liked it, and I got into STEM. I mean, it just seemed like the right thing to do at that time for me. I did not face any conflicts that a lot of people face. I did not have any major struggles. The only problem that I had was that when I was in 11th and 12th grade, there was no science in the girls' college in my town. So I had to go to a boys' college, and in that boys' college, there were only 2 girls in the whole college. So in the classrooms, there will be 2 girls, and of course, people will, we were assigned seats that we could sit on. We could not just walk around on campus. So we were given a small common room behind the principal's office. So in between classes, we'll just go and sit there. So the social life was very limited. And that was very hard. But other than that, going through school and college, and then getting National Science Talent Search Scholarship really expanded my horizon. I met people from big towns, from Delhi and Bombay and Calcutta, and and it just it exposed me to a world that growing up in Rampur was not accessible to me. And I got into IIT Kanpur, did my master's from there, and then I did my PhD. And during the summer schools, I met wonderful people like Kamna, and we've been friends ever since. And a lot of really, it was actually very good for me to go to those summer schools. And I don't just mean it at the level of technology, but just personally. And then I just kept changing as the need was. I did not proactively chose something. So we decided to come to the US. So I got a faculty appointment at University of Pennsylvania in radiology department. And this was physics. I mean, it's physics, but not quantum physics. Let me put it this way. It was more image processing. Then I got into graphics, doing three-dimensional displays from the CT data, right? So I changed as things happened to me rather than my proactively changing things. And I did, I think, just well enough to keep going, right? And then I turned 50 and I just could not see myself doing engineering for the rest of my life. And I went to do a couple of classes in counseling psychology, and I was hooked. And I just continued doing it. And I'm a therapist now. I've been a therapist for the last 16 years, and I really, really like it. So that's my story. It's not something that I planned and executed on. I just kind of followed wherever my path took me. So it's been a long journey, but it's been rewarding.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear from Kamna a bit now about, again, if you look back, the challenges those days and what kept you going, what inspired you, how did you choose your own line?
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see everyone here. I would be happy if you didn't switch off your cameras. I love to see people I'm talking to. And it's nice to see some familiar faces. Yeah. So yes, I grew up like Sushma. Surprisingly, I was just reflecting on that in a very small town in India. And my guiding principle was I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to heal people. I had many doctors in my family. I wanted to be a medical doctor. And with that, I was working, studying towards exams. And then we came to Delhi, and there was a big change in my horizons. I had so much academic input from different schools. I ended up in Lady Irwin School, I still maintain one of the best girls' schools. So lots of girls, lots of science, lots of fun times. And then I just sat for this. We had a physics teacher who was very inspiring. A lot of us still remember him, Mr. Murelkar, and he was really, I think I did physics because of him. Anyway, so we did science talent exam. And that changed my life course, actually, the scholarship, because at that time they didn't give the scholarship for medical or engineering subjects. And with somewhat heavy heart, I decided I'll be a scientist instead of a doctor. And I did better in biology and chemistry, but I wanted physics, so I chose physics. And that was my second guiding principle. I just love the subject. And I have moved around the world with physics. I have done many research positions, and I have met many very talented, beautiful people, physicists, and some not so interesting people also. But sorry, my dog wants to come in my lap. So and then I realized that after a certain age, your physics talent becomes a bit jaded. So I moved. I did a MBA course, and then I went into community work, but in science environment. I did many program management, project management projects, and I loved my role in the University of Oxford, where I worked with labs across Europe with quantum and information scientists, and I was teaching them communications while learning a bit of quantum with them. So we did a huge EC project, which was a very successful one. And then I went to Oxfam again for community work, and I managed their international intranet, global intranet with 2,000 people base. And I was using all my technical and physics knowledge, but also the MBA and the communications. And then I think at least as I grew older, I wanted to be more introspective. So I did some NLP training, some generative coaching. Generative coaching is actually coaching creatively, giving people space to explore themselves. So my three words that have guided me is creativity, community, and just a sense of compassion for myself and the world around me. So I'm very, very fortunate and very blessed that I was born in a family who supported me in all my journeys. And so I don't know if I changed my path. I had just some inner guiding principle of science and then community work. So I guess those are the two things that stayed. So looking back, I have not many regrets, and I feel very happy when I say that. Yeah, I just now in the pandemic, I have a regret that I haven't been to India for 3 years. And I have a regret that I have lost several friends in India who I will never see. But also the opportunities, as Pradeep was saying about working the way I can. I am doing a lot more than I was doing after finishing my role in the University of Oxford. So thank you for this space, and it's really nice to see everyone. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing for STEM, and you, Mita, especially for STEM for women. I think it's very commendable, and I'm all for doing whatever I can to support it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So when I listened to both of you, there were some commonalities. Both of you were in physics, so there is a deep passion, of course, for physics. That's why you chose it. Both of you talked of the science talent as something which was life-changing and which gave a different kind of exposure. And you mentioned that, okay, there was this limited kind of thing in a small town, and then we met people from various cities and so on. So I'm picking on that, and both of you have worked across countries, cultures, and locations afterwards. So I want you to delve into your work life, and I'm guessing that there also you would have been in a minority, just like in school and college. Maybe now again we can start with Sushma first, and then Kamna, on your work life. How was it working in all the technology areas? Which were the parts you liked? Which were the challenges? Being again a pioneering women, part of the small workforce in those companies. So yeah, over to you, Sushma.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing that we need to remember is that although things have changed now, when I got into STEM, there were very few women. So that was a big factor. It limited your social life enormously. But that being said, some things that I had to face were because I was a woman. So for example, I was working in PRL, and there was a scientist from France who had come, and we had some discussions, and he wanted me to go to France and work in his lab, and he really pursued me a lot. But at that time I had a small child, and I just did not think that I could go. I could leave my daughter, and I did not go. That's fine, but afterwards I was talking with the director at PRL, and he told me, he said, Sushma Ben, do you realize that you have lost all credibility? And I said, what do you mean I have lost all credibility? He said, because of you, somebody else lost his opportunity because you were there and you did not take the opportunity and it did not matter to you. So we think about it as somebody who we cannot depend on to pursue the right career path. So that happened because I was a woman. That I did not mind that. I mean, I made the choice. I was okay with that choice, but that choice had the consequence, and the consequence was that this director who I was talking with, Dr. Pandya, he basically told me, I'm not going to give you any opportunities in this lab going further. The other time that I remember is I was at University of Pennsylvania, and I had this professor who will have Friday morning meetings at 8 o'clock, no matter what's happening. And again, there were all men, and I would be the only woman in the group. And if I came 5 minutes late, and they, oh, what happened? How come you're late? And I said, oh, my babysitter was late. They will give me this look like, what do you mean babysitter? Who's babysitter? What is? Because there was, I mean, all these people who I was working with, their wives were stay-at-home moms. And then after I come, then somebody else will walk in, and then they will ask him the same thing. What happened? And this guy will say, oh, I couldn't find parking. And then they will talk about how bad parking is at Penn, right? So then I started telling them, oh, my babysitter could not find parking. And that was totally acceptable, So there were, things like this, that your issues, your concerns are not people don't understand that. But other than that, I did not think that I was not given opportunities. I am not, my vocal cords haven't opened it yet. It's 6:30 here, right?
Totally fine.
Yeah, so I did not feel discriminated against. I did not feel that I did not get opportunities because people just wrote me off. And I think that working in tech has been very rewarding. I like the fact that it is very deterministic in nature. I like the fact that it's very clean. I mean, you know what problem you're trying to solve. Most of the time, you know how to go about solving it, or you find the solution. So being in the US, I think things are a little bit different. I know that in India and in other countries, there is a lot of discrimination against women and minorities, but I did not experience that. I did not think that I was paid less or I was not given any opportunities because I was a minority or a woman. So overall, it has been a very good experience, and I would very much encourage young women to think about STEM. I mean, you know, software engineering, year after year, it is rated as the best profession in the US. You know, pay is good, the conflicts are much less, and people have a sense of accomplishment. You know?
Yeah.
Did I answer your question, Mita?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Kamna, I know there are differences, as in you work, mostly in Europe, while Sushma has been in the US. Also, while she went to the corporate sector, you worked at a lot of, research places and also in the development sector. So tell us again how it was being in the minority group, and like Sushma told us, what were the high points? What did you enjoy the most as well?
Yeah, so Mita, I'll actually start with our alma mater, the IIT Delhi physics department, which is one of, I don't know how it is now, I am not there, but it was totally uneducated about women at that time. And I'm sorry to say my peers and my professors were not kind to women. And we used to laugh, and I have lots of friends from that time. We used to laugh that there is not one single woman faculty. And until I think 2 or 3 or 5 years after I left, and then the faculty member came who was married to a faculty member. And that's why the professor who was supporting that faculty member got her a job. And I remember the embarrassing instances of going for an interview, all prepared. And all they wanted to ask about was, actually now I feel proud that they were talking about my acting talent, that, oh, you were acting in that play. Is that what you are here for, to do drama and acting? And I was surprised because actually it wasn't me. It was somebody else who had already left IIT, frustrated. So that's my biggest hurt about being a woman physicist. And I left very sad because I wanted to stay in India. I wanted to just be there. I had family. I had no reason to go abroad. And I think now I say IIT Delhi did me the biggest favor by rejecting me, because I have flourished everywhere I have gone. And so much cultural and other tech inputs. And what I did in IIT in 1 month, I could do in Germany in 1 day, literally, with the facilities and the support. And discrimination, as Sushma said, I haven't felt any. And that's why I say the science word and the other word, there are 2 different words. Scientists have no time for discrimination. Scientists are very, very focused on what they're doing. So I used to get discrimination outside. So I was in Max Planck Institute, and I was really valued and respected for who I was as a human being, as a scientist, in every way. But when I walked out, I did experience discrimination in Munich, and I left because when the wall came down, the Berlin Wall, there was a huge outcry against foreigners, and people with colored skin were targeted, obvious outsiders. And again, that that challenge brought me so much joy. I came to France, I met my husband, we went and did an MBA, and then we came to England. So I always say sometimes my challenges have kind of cajoled me into a new path, and it has always been better than before somehow. So now I have stopped worrying about challenges. I just take them like, okay, here is a signal from the universe. I have to do something different. So yeah, but I think if I was not a physicist, life wouldn't have been that easy, because I am an explorer by heart, and I like to do different things, and it's not easy to do that if you don't have a degree, an education, which you can use in different professions, different times of life. So as somebody was saying about software work, and physics is exactly that, I say to people, if you do physics, you can do anything after that, because your mind is trained. Yeah. But that's me saying it. So some people don't like that statement, of course. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And I like that expression. You said that when there is a challenge, you think that, okay, the universe is giving me a message, and maybe I have to do something different or do things differently. So we'll talk about that. And because both of you have also made a transition, and you used sort of similar words that, okay, I thought, I've done a lot in this area, and you wanted to do different things. But what were the triggers? How did you choose what you're doing? And what do you enjoy most in what you're doing now? So Sushma, we'll start with you first. If you talk about the stuff you're doing now, what got you started on it, and what are you enjoying the most about it?
Well, as I said, I turned 50 and I just could not see myself doing engineering for the rest of my life. So I was looking at, okay, what are the areas, what are the things I don't know about? And I knew that psychology was one of the things I knew nothing about. So I was talking with my daughter, and she said, why don't you take some classes? She was going to Santa Clara University at that time. And I decided to audit some classes, and I took one class, I took second class, and then I just kept taking classes, and I could not leave it. It totally grabbed me. And then they asked me to enroll in a program, because they said, we can't keep you in the school all the time, just taking classes. So I enrolled in the program. I really wasn't thinking very much about a career in counseling psychology, but by that time I had enough credits. I had met all the requirements, and then I said, okay, I'll do my training and internship. And then I got license. It's a grueling program. It's not an easy program. It's a healthcare thing, and you have to be licensed, so the requirements are very strict. But for me personally, the biggest thing was my own personal growth, that I thought was, I changed as a result of going through the program, going through my own therapy, because Santa Clara required you to be in therapy when you were in the program. And 40 sessions a year, that's quite a lot of therapy over 3 years. So all of that was very, very, very rewarding for me. As far as the work is concerned, no two clients are alike. What is it? Anna Karenina, right? All happy families are alike. All unhappy families are unhappy after its own fashion.
Yeah.
So all clients are different. Everybody's life story is different. Everybody has to be motivated differently. So there is never a dull moment. There is never, there are times when I'm scared. There are times when I'm anxious. I'm worried for the clients. I'm tired. All the feelings, but never bored, never not interested. So the work is very rewarding. And it's very personal. It's very, you hear the deep down truth, what people are facing. So it has just been very rewarding, I keep saying rewarding, but because it is very rewarding. And you learn about people, you learn how much strength people have and what kind of adversity people live in and live with and still thrive. Right. So I want to continue doing it. I want to raise awareness about mental health issues more and more, and I'm trying to explore ways in which I can educate more people about mental health issues. I want to also, looking at my own example, I don't think I had aptitude for theoretical physics, but I did it. I think that I would like to make people aware of things like vocational aptitude testing, and yeah, that's essentially it.
What groups do you deal with, as in families, children, adults?
So lately I'm working a lot with Indian 30-somethings couples, and some of the challenges that they face. And it's really very interesting that how women have moved forward, but men have not, in a way. So, when I'm talking, there is a total disconnect between husband and wife, and disconnect about, he sees his role as a provider and a protector. And she says, I don't need a provider and I don't need a protector. Okay, I need a partner. Right? And he does not know how to deal with that reality. Right? So I work with a lot also with chronic diseases, that people who have got multiple sclerosis, people have got bipolar disorder, people have got cancer, leukemia, and how it affects them and their families. I work with adolescents, a lot of 14, 15, 16-year-olds, depressed, family struggles, cultural misfits, lack of communication between parents and the kids. So communication is a huge issue. People do not say what they think. They do not say what they mean. So, intention, perception, disparities. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's so amazing. It's very inspirational. There are these huge challenges you've overcome, because the way you said, becoming a licensed therapist involved huge number of hours. And then now when you're talking about people, I mean, one can see that you're contributing so much, but it would be really, really challenging, maybe much more challenging than anything you did ever before, to listen to people and to, to be able to help them. I think I can't imagine, it's a very complex thing from what I am listening. So now, Kamna, I want you to share similarly that, just like Sushma said, how difficult was the journey, how complex is your work, and what is rewarding in it? What do you look forward to do?
Yeah, so I started with introspection. I just finished one job, and I literally remember that minute. I was sitting at my dining table with my computer, and I still remember the tulips behind the computer. And then this email fell in, and they said, "Did you want to come and join us on an NLP course?" And I said, "Oh, I never heard of, what is this NLP?" So I asked around, and some people said, "Oh, it's a great course. Go and try it. Go and try it." So it's neuro-linguistic programming. And I think that really changed my internal perception of the world and how I do things. And then the journey started, like Sushma said, that I was more and more curious. So I trained in several directions of NLP, and I started coaching. So I coach young women entrepreneurs, because I think whether Western or Indian, women do have difficulty finding their self-esteem in corporate environment, in environment where, so they always, I would use the term undersell. They always are happy with lesser salary, lesser hours, because they want to go home and take care of the children. And so, and yet in some ways they don't have that feeling of satisfaction. So I work a lot with women, and then I have been working and I have been training, and I also have started working with young teenagers. Especially in the pandemic, there is a lot of trauma around not socializing, not meeting others. So there are a lot of feeling of isolation and not being able to, even find their own selves in this. It's very scary for teenagers not to be doing the normal things. And then, so I work with Zoom with a lot of people. And then I'm also, I'm responsible for an organization. I think I mentioned it to you. It's called International. It's an association of generative change, generative coaches. So we are 400 of us. So there's a lot of interaction, talking, and I facilitate that. And it's a lot of learning. And I'm now initiating. It's brand new. I'm going to do events under the umbrella of parent to parent, because I feel parents feel very isolated when they have children, especially in the Western world. There are no grandmothers or granddads to leave the child with, and they juggle. Women get the big brunt, although Western men are very, very talented in childcare. So I'm going to start a workshop, call it Parent to Parent, where some professionals who are also parents will come and hold the space for parents who are having specific difficulties with their teenagers. So this is something new I'm starting. So I'm really happy also to be part of the STEM for Women initiative, because I think women still, no matter how much it changes, change is slow, and we need to support each other in this journey. So yeah. I don't see you anymore, Meeta. Are you still here?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Okay. That's just probably the speaker view puts spotlight. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So tell me, since there are these commonalities in your lives, that both of you did physics, you worked in the corporate and academia. How did that help you? And the question which Pradeep asked earlier also, you have to look after your interests, then there is an aptitude factor, and then there are the finances, and then you have to add value. So any of you can jump in. And also from the audience, by the way, please ask, any questions, please put in the chat. And Pradeep, I know it's late for you. If you want to add any question also. So let's just start an interactive, discussion. I just want to hear how did that part of your life help you in your, present chosen lives?
You mean the education?
Yeah, because you worked for so long as, in physics, and in some ways it would have shaped you. Whatever we do has an influence on us, right? So do you think it helped you? Do you think you would have liked to do this from the beginning? I'm sure in some ways it contributed. So what was that?
Like to do what from the beginning?
So, you could have gone into, let's say, a psychology.
NLP, no.
Yes, yeah.
I would not change.
You loved your physics as well. So
I would not change one day of my life with physics and science. And I didn't do it because I didn't want to do physics. It was a natural progression. At a certain age, I wanted to do something which takes my science. So by the way, the association I'm responsible for, I am doing their technical support. I'm doing their websites. I'm doing a lot of that aspect also. So my strength has been my physics, yeah. And I think it has given me a way of thinking which lets me be emotional as well as logical, cognitive at the same time. And I sincerely believe that every child should do a bit of maths and physics. I call it science, but yeah. And women, especially, they who don't get that opportunity, I see the difference that they have. This might sound arrogant, but I think in education, cognitive thinking, maths and physics are very important. And of course, my dad was my strong support. He would support me in anything, and that's a big deal also. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sushma, like, it's like a full stack thing. How did that part of your life help you? How did it build where you are?
You know, I think STEM is a gift, really. I would very much encourage all young girls to be in STEM, to, as long as it is in line with your aptitude. Okay, because otherwise, we may still succeed, but it's a little bit harder. It's just not that it comes naturally, let me put it this way, right? So, but other than that, you talked about money part. Being a therapist is not a get rich quick endeavor. It's not, I don't do it because I make a lot of money. I need to make money because I need to pay my bills. It costs money to keep an office, right? But it's not something that is going to make me rich or, add millions to my retirement fund. That does not happen. It's really important to have money. It's really important to count your pennies and have savings, because you do not know what you may want to do when you're 50. And I'm talking to all the young people who are here, or even teaching it to your children, right? That it's having a lot of money does not make you a better person, and it does not make you happier. But not having money, being poor, makes you unhappy. So do not discount the monetary financial part. And I don't mean that strive for money. I don't mean that, you should have zillions of dollars. What I'm saying is that you should be able to pay your bills, right? Because not being able to pay your bills, you're poor. That means you're poor, and that's not a happy place to be. So STEM takes that financial worry from you. Okay, it takes the politics of society from you, right? It's a clean profession. Okay, so I would very much encourage people to get into STEM, but make sure that you have the aptitude for it. Okay, in the world, there will be a place for you. Okay, for aptitude, there are aptitude testing places, vocational aptitude testing. Look for it. There you will find a place where you can get your child's vocational aptitude evaluated. It makes a world of difference having the aptitude. Now, I do want to talk about a couple of other things here. I want to talk about passion. We talked about passion. What is passion? Because, you should have a passion for it. Does it mean that it's something I should like? I mean, if I like something, I have a passion for it. Maybe that is the case, but making a living is hard. You are working 8-9 hours a day, 40 hours a week to make a living. You want to do something that you are enjoying, and you have the aptitude for. So something that you like doing and something that you are good at. Once you have that figured out, right, do that and count your pennies. In my case, I was able to go back to school for 3 years. I was able to do my training and internship for 3 years. And before I started working, got my license. And, even after getting my license, it takes time for you to build up a clientele. And I was able to do it because I was in STEM, and I was, I had saved money, and I was able to use that money to go back to school and, do my training and internship and follow this path. So,
Yeah.
yes. And, we all have to be aware of what is our purpose in life? What is my raison d'être? Why am I here? And that awareness, that search, you have to search for it. You have to seek it. It's not automatic that I know that this is why I am living. And once you find that purpose, then everything becomes very streamlined. Everything falls in place. So my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Just
So, Meeta,
things
with your permission, I just want to
Sure.
ask one or two
Yeah,
questions.
sure. Go ahead.
Sushma, we've spoken about STEM, but the thinking has moved from STEM to STEAM to STREAM. So, what are your thoughts?
What is the difference? I don't.
Okay, so when you move from STEM to STEAM, you've added arts. When you move from STEAM to STREAM, you've added literacy, reading and writing. So a lot of thinking has moved that it is not just a question of getting STEM skills, but also having some input of liberal arts and also improve literacy, etc. There have been other perspectives which have said that it really doesn't matter in terms of semantics whether it is STEM, STEAM, or STREAM, but it is more about design thinking or getting into that mode. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Kamna, you want to handle it?
Handle it. I don't know about handling it. I am very interested in widening horizons, and a lot of science teaching in India especially is very narrow. Engineers are a bit more fortunate. They get slightly wider, hands-on, practical. And otherwise, I grew up all in the head with a lot of physics, which I digested later because I did experimental physics. I worked with my hands and literally with equipment. And now in the hindsight, I realize how important it is to do that, to bring that to daily life. And I'm totally for art. I have been talking about it within our own group also, Meeta, that painting, you do a lot of you do painting, you do art, and maybe you can say more about how it has enriched your life. Yeah. And I'll just say that I had a physicist friend. We grew up together in Delhi, and I moved to Germany, and he was in Calcutta. And suddenly I connected on Facebook, and I said, oh wow, you paint now. And he was in Calcutta, he was painting the harbor, and I said, I need to take courage to paint. He says, no courage, just get the paint and the paper and you will do it. And it's sitting behind me. I haven't done it yet, but I have an Indian painting behind me, which is representative of my culture. So it's very important. Yeah. And Meeta, please say something about it. Yeah.
Okay. So when I was listening to both of you, in fact, the way I was sort of synthesizing, both of you had this love of the sciences, which gave you, things like analytical thinking, a way of thinking. Both of you use that word. Second, it sort of gave you a way of life, because like Sushma spoke, that this was a clean profession. So it was rewarding in that sense. And it gave you also a sort of respectability and credibility in, society, because you're seen as contributing. Now, this was from the, studying and work point of view. Now, for an artist, it's a kind of lens that you have of looking at things, whether it will always pay your bills, one can't say, because the biggest of artists, if you see Vincent van Gogh, I mean, there have been some successful ones as well, but then you can't say. So people often do not choose it as a career more because of those kind of constraints or perspectives. But what I would say, and Pradeep, you said stream to, I mean, it need not be a progression also, STEM to STEAM to stream. I think it could all coexist, and probably it's a constraint in our own formal education system that we force people to choose subjects when they don't know enough about themselves or those subjects or the career options. So maybe if we have some flexibility for people to choose, at the same time, I have taught at school and college level, and I would add that too much flexibility also at that stage doesn't work.
So another
Yeah,
question from my side. Let me ask you, and this time it is to you, Kamna. So it was like a eureka moment for you. One day somebody mentioned NLP, and you said, "Oh, let me find what is NLP," and then that became the love of your life. So, what is your key takeaway for people who are in the age group of 25 to 30? Should they be planning for their midlife crisis? Should they be planning for 50s? Or should they live the life the way they want to live?
I don't see any contradiction in planning and living the present life the way I want to live. And I think my keyword in that is again to do with having been a researcher is curiosity. If you're open and curious about where you are, you can never fail. And this is what I said in my narration. And without preparing, I just came extempore today. And it came across to me again that every time I have had to change from external and I have been open about it and curious about it, I have always gained. So, yes, a bit of planning, but a lot of openness and curiosity, and keep your all your treasures in your purse, all your knowledge, all your what you learn through life, keep it in your purse and close to your heart. Don't lose that. Yeah, money. And I have walked away from situations with the van, when I packed up when I had this trouble in Munich, and I was literally very seriously in physical danger. I put everything in a van, and I got a Pakistani man who I had never met. I simply was friends with his wife. I took his help, put everything in the van, and moved to France. And I had lived in Munich 9 years, and I had my whole life, I thought, in Munich, and I was going to be there and go to Delhi from time to time. I just left. So what did I carry? All my precious curiosity, my precious knowledge, and what somebody said also, the trust that there is a deeper meaning in everything we do. Yeah. And we in India, we are lucky. We grow up a lot more we do than in the Western world. My own daughter growing up in Oxford is not connected with that inner life the way I had been as a child. So that's what I will say. Yeah.
And one more question from my side. This is for Sushma. Sushma, you've gone into a paramedical field. You are a counselor to that extent.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of going into a medicine or studying health or the full form by itself?
Well, believe it or not, it is very much a healthcare thing. I mean, the difference is that I work with psychiatrists. So just like a brief thing about mental health professions, there are four professions. I mean, there is one profession, but four areas. So there are psychiatrists, there are psychologists, there are marriage and family therapists, and there are clinical social workers. Now that is in the US. I don't know about other countries. So what is the difference between the four? Psychiatrists are MDs. They can prescribe medication. Okay. Clinical psychologists have PhD, and they usually have have a specialization, right? And LMFTs, which is what I am, they are like primary care. They're like jack of all trade in terms of mental health, right? And clinical social workers are sort of they're the case managers. They are the ones who make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So let's say that somebody comes and they are all blue and black because they've been beaten up. Maybe a man comes and his wife has beaten him up, right? So what will a psychiatrist may send this person to a hospital to get the treatment for any broken bones or whatever, right? A clinical psychologist may or may not be involved. A marriage and family therapist will say, why did it happen? What needs to be done so that it does not happen again? What are the psychological issues that are causing this violence, domestic violence, to happen? A clinical social worker will say, okay, do you need a shelter? Do you need money? What do you need? Do you need transportation? Is everything in place for you to get the services you need? Right? So these four professions work kind of in concert, right? So I am a marriage and family therapist. A lot of times, I get a referral from the hospitals or from psychiatrists, and I send people to psychiatrists for medication. Because if somebody, for example, if somebody is very, very depressed, they can't even get out of bed, they can't even focus on something, therapy is not going to work for them, because in order to benefit from therapy, you need certain level of functionality, right? So I will send them to a psychiatrist, monitor the medication and all that, and when they are a little bit better, then we start therapy, right? There is a lot of education involved. There is a lot of soul searching involved, right? I mean, somebody is just diagnosed with a chronic illness, so it can really impact their sense of self, right? A woman gets breast cancer, right? Who am I? I mean, just the whole anatomy, the breast, it's so much a part of your femininity. And then if you have to have your breast removed, what does that do to people's sense of self? So managing all of that, working with that, that is what therapy is. So at this time, do I want to do full-fledged healthcare thing? I think what I'm doing is fine.
No, I love it. I love it. I was wanting to provoke you. There was a movie. I'm forgetting
So
the name where the guy he joins medicine at the age of 60 or something like that. But just jokes
yeah,
apart. Back to you, Meeta.
No, so I just want to say, listening to both of you, that, we were talking of doing physics and how it contributed. So one can see, that comprehensiveness, the depth, the discipline, getting into, in a different kind of way, all that has added to what you're doing now. Because I'm sure there are therapists, and similarly, Kamna, there are coaches and coaches, but you are bringing a different kind of depth into it. That is one thing. Second, I think it's personal qualities. I've known both of you. So it is that drive of contributing and adding value. So I just want to say all the best. It was so lovely listening to both your journeys. It's truly inspirational that we will keep, I'm so happy that all of us could listen to it now. We'll keep coming back to it. So that's it from me. I mean, we said 8 to 9, and Kamna, I know, she has got to go. Any quick questions? I'm just looking here, or many of you know both of them. You want to quickly ask a question, maybe one or two at the most, we can allow. Otherwise, we just going to go. Any of you want to ask something? I don't see in the chat. I think we've all been totally engrossed in listening to you. And we've asked you questions. So, yeah.
So I'm seeing a raise.
Kavita's got her hand up. Great. Yeah, Kavita, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask both of them, how do they kind of reach out to people? How do people come to know that they are doing this kind of a thing? Is it that it's a word-to-word kind of a publicity, or how is it?
Okay, who wants to take it first? Kamna, you want to go first?
Yeah, mine is word of mouth. I haven't. It's strange. I manage a huge website of an association, and I have a page there, but I haven't created my own. And I just feel worried about being overwhelmed with. But I should do it, yes. And if you know anyone who will happily help me with communication ideas, I'll be happy to talk to them. Like a question answer session where they can go away then and create something. Yes. So thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely journeys, both
So,
of you.
Yeah,
Kamna.
Sushma. Yeah, Sushma, you'd
So
like to add?
for me, it was in order to, it's a very good question that how do people know that you are there? I mean, how do you let people? So I did two things. One thing was that I was doing a lot of parenting classes because I was, a part of my training was working at a school with the children and parents. So I got to know PTA people. So I would advertise on the PTA for the schools in the area. So that way kind of people get to know a little bit about you. And I got quite a few clients from my parenting classes, okay, as a parenting coach. And the other thing that I did was that I got on some health insurance panels. So those health insurance panels, they put you in their resource list, right? And being on that resource list, you get a lot of clients. Actually, I was getting so many clients that I mean, I could not handle that. There was so much work, but they don't pay very well, the healthcare companies. So when the work became too much, I started eliminating the healthcare companies from my panel thing. And now at this time, I have just enough clients as much as I want to have. And I really want to do a little bit more outreach for education. Okay. So I'm thinking about some ways to do it. But yeah, see, I cannot tell anybody who my clients are. I cannot put testimonials on my website because I'm not allowed to in my profession. I cannot even say I'm Dr. Sushma Trivedi because that is misleading. I don't have a PhD in psychology. I have a PhD in physics. So it does not make me a doctor, so you cannot mislead people. And word of mouth is totally up to people. And, a lot of times people do not want to say I'm in therapy. So it's very difficult marketing yourself. That is a difficult part. Yeah.
I think once you get a critical mass of people, then it spreads by word of mouth. That initial lot is tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And, people, it's a very different business model. I mean, it's not, I want to be very, very careful about what words I use.
Yeah.
It's not a medical model, right? My primary care physician, I see her twice a year at most, and I see her for like 10 minutes, right? I have clients who come back every week, sometimes twice a week, and I see them for 1 hour at a time, right? So it's a very different interaction. Yeah. So
yeah. So thank you so much, both of you. I mean, we can see that you love your work and you're good at it. So you've arrived at that happy stage. And so all the very best. You're obviously making such a great contribution to all the people you're dealing with. All the very best. We enjoyed talking to both of you. Thank you, Pradeep, for being up at this unearthly hour. And thank you all of you who listened in, and we'll keep updating you whenever we have our next sessions. We really enjoy having you all around and talking on this favorite subject of ours. Thank you so much.
Meeta,
Thank you very
I
much.
want to say special thanks to you. And I love the
Yeah.
way you sum up who I am. And it always sounds better than what I feel. So
No,
thank
that's
you
what
very
comes
much for
across
that.
when I listen to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All the
Thank
best, everyone.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.